welcome back to Cinematic Sarcastic, the podcast that talks all things movies and television. I'm Natalie, and I'm your host. On today's episode, we are going to talk about Mickey 17. Now, I did watch this one last night, but I came home with a pretty bad migraine, so I am filming this, or recording this rather, on Friday morning, and I'm going to try and get this one up Friday afternoon sometime, so it's not going to go out during my normal scheduled time. I hope that's okay, but I wanted to get it out before everyone started making choices for films, Friday night and over the weekend. So Mickey 17, for anyone who is not familiar with this film, it is a sci-fi comedy, starring Robert Pattinson, Naomi Ackie, Mark Ruffalo, Toni Collette. There are many, many others in this film that I recognize. This one is about a character named Mickey Barnes who, because of some sort of shady dealings, I guess, that he got into on Earth, decides to sign up as an expendable on an expedition into outer space. And essentially what expendables are human test guinea pigs. Anything that happens, he is the person that they call for these things. So if they need to test radiation on the flight out to this new planet, he is the one that's put outside of the ship in order to do that. If they are testing new, biochemical weapons, he is the one that they are testing it on when they land at the new planet. He's the one that goes out first and breathes in the air to make sure it's breathable, that there are no pathogens and that sort of thing. And when he inevitably expires from these things, they have a machine that is something, akin to how they rebuilt Leeloo Dallas in The Fifth Element, that they just have a machine that takes human waste, essentially, or human particles and rebuilds his body. So when we are joining the movie, we are on Mickey number 17, hence the title. Now, when I saw the trailer and when I went into the movie, I had this certain expectation of kind of what I thought it was going to be. I sort of thought it was going to be a little bit sci-fi, a little bit action, sort of some comedy, just in terms of, he's obviously dying a bunch of times and having to be rebuilt. And I thought it was going to be sort of space exploration. I thought it was going to be a little bit more fun. It did not, in my opinion, turn out to be quite like that. I have heard people talk about this as a comedy, and I have not listened to Jeremy John's review yet, though I love him and I will at some point. I like to record mine before watching anybody else's, but there were people in his comments that were talking about how it was a comedy, and I am sort of taken aback by that. I don't know if maybe I missed the elements in the film that were considered comical. I will say my theater full of people was silent the entire way through this movie, so there was no time that anyone laughed during this movie or thought it was a hee hee ha ha moment, and certainly I didn't either. Mickey 17 to me at the beginning of the film was quite interesting. I liked some of the things that they set up. I liked the direction that it was going, and it totally and completely fell apart for me in the second half. I think somewhere around the midway point, maybe a little bit further than midway point, I started to realize that this movie had no plot. Had no story progression. And what I mean by that is the character that you start with at the beginning. So Mickey Barnes obviously is the main character. The character and who he is at the beginning of the film is exactly the character and who he is at the end of the film. There is no character progression. There is no character arc. There is nothing that he learns. There is nothing about this experience that changes him. If anything, I feel like he ends up talking about other characters, or other sort of minor characters around him are sort of propped up at the end of the film that irritated me a little bit. Not that I didn't enjoy those side characters as well, but that's not the main character. That's not the character I'm following. That's not the one I'm rooting for. That's not the one that I want to see the growth and expansion from. It would be Mickey 17. That's who I want to sort of see. And kind of the way that they progressed this story just didn't make sense to me. I did not find it all that enjoyable. There are some political parts in this movie as well that I also am just not super keen on, and not because I don't like political things. It's just I like to walk into a movie knowing that someone is going to be political about something, or knowing, that that's what I'm walking into. I don't like films that interject political propaganda into something that otherwise has been marketed as something completely different, if that makes make sense. So for instance, like Civil War, I knew that film was going to have, even though it's not about politics, and that one was more about journalism and, kind of the ethics around journalism, I knew that there were going to be some political elements to that film just in the way that it is marketed and put out to the audience. And so I knew what to expect when I was walking into that. I did not expect anything political to come out of Mickey 17. I thought it was going to be like a fun sci-fi, and it turned out to be a lot more. There were a lot more political undertones to it than I personally would have cared for. I maybe would have passed on this one and gone to see something else if I had known kind of what they were going to do with it. Just in general, I did not enjoy this film very much, but I do feel like it is going to highly, highly depend on what types of films you like. I think if you are the type of person who really likes movies like Everywhere, Everything, Everywhere All at Once, is that the right one? I think if those are the types of films that you are interested in or that you like, I hate to call Mickey 17 sort of like avant-garde, but you know what I'm talking about, the sort of artsy kind of films, then I think that you will enjoy Mickey 17. If you do not like that type of movie, I think that you will really hate this one because I personally did not enjoy this. This is not my vibe. It was not my cup of tea. I think I'm really more so disappointed in not liking it because I have yet at this point to see a film starring Robert Pattinson that I have actually enjoyed. And it's a shame, really, because I look at him in this movie and I see, granted, I have not seen every movie that he's ever been in, certainly not, but I can tell that he is really good at transforming himself for a role. I can tell that he has that potential of being a really good actor, right? I couldn't really question that because I think that he took the character of Mickey Barnes and he really made that character. The sad part of it is that I didn't enjoy this movie and I haven't enjoyed any movie that I've seen him in. So where I thought Mickey 17 would be that sort of pivot for me where I would see him and I wouldn't immediately clock that movie as a no thank you, this one's kind of just added to that for me in that any role that I see him come up on in the future, I am probably going to shy away from wanting to watch that just because of the fact that the roles that he seems to take on are films that I do not end up enjoying. But those are my thoughts on Mickey 17. I would love to know what you guys thought of this one if you have watched it. Subscribe to join the Movie Nerd family, and I hope to see you in the next episode.